Have you ever watched a movie, listened to some music, read a book, or experienced some kind of art, and maybe didn't appreciate it at the time, but all it takes is one comment about it and a little time away from it, and it puts it in an entirely new light for you, and you end up appreciating the hell out of it? The Night House is one of those films, as I left the theater acknowledging its strengths, but not loving it. But the longer I thought about it and the more I researched it, I couldn't help but feel like it is an important film, despite the fact that I'm not absolutely in love with it. Yes, what I'm saying is vague and all over the place, but hopefully I'll find some kind of concrete viewpoint of the Night House as I chart out this review. Welcome back to ML Miller Frights. I'm ML Miller. Before we begin, please do me a favor and punch that like button down below. Share this video with all of your social media addicted pals. Click subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for notifications. The Night House is new in select theaters. It's directed by David Bruckner and written by Ben Collins and Luke Piotrowski. Beth, played by Godzilla vs. Kong's Rebecca Hall, is devastated after her husband Owen kills himself. While leaving a note, it is completely vague and leaves no real reason why he decided to end his life. This leaves Beth alone and distraught in the house they built, attempting to put the pieces of her life back together. But Owen might not be totally gone, as it seems his spirit has unfinished business with Beth, leaving Beth to figure out the mystery of her husband's death and the dark forces that forced him to commit suicide. The Night House is a dark tale about coming to grips with the death of a loved one. While one might never understand the torment one who commits suicide has gone through, that doesn't stop those who have survived from attempting to understand the reason why the act is done. Because this is such a common way of thinking and feeling, The Night House is an easy film to get caught up with. Most of us know about death, and if you don't, count your lucky stars. And most of us are often tortured by unanswered questions that most likely will never be answered when a loved one is taken away too soon. Without the context comparing the story to other films, and without the supernatural elements, this is a story about coping with loss. The universal fear of death, which is basically the core of all horror movies. Simply at face value, The Night House handles the theme of coping with death in a sophisticated, mature, and complex way, making it a cut above most horror movies out there, which rely on the coolness of the kill and how much grue can be splattered about. It depicts a woman attempting to make sense of the unsensible, a suicide that seemingly came out of the blue. This works because Rebecca Hall is a phenomenal actress. We see her attempt to cope with the loss through sarcasm, humor, sadness, self-loathing, suspicion, anger, and finally acceptance. Hall does a phenomenal job of bringing all of these complex emotions to life, playing these emotions with a layer of personality that shows the character's strengths and weaknesses. Beth is a strong woman and trying to power through this massive loss, but at the same time, Hall allows us to see Beth's vulnerable side, collapsing into drinking, tears, and sorrow in a way that is fearless, as it doesn't really put her in a favorable light. The thing is, sometimes I view a film in a jaded and sarcastic manner. I've seen too many films not to. So when I see melodrama, sometimes I can't help but get snarky. I can't help but label the film as a cut-and-dry Hallmark movie of the week about the loss of a husband and one woman's struggle to get her groove back. On the surface, that's what The Night House is. Beth desperately wants to understand why her husband chose suicide over talking it out with her, and as the story goes on, even more desperately wants to move on, despite her own curiosity and stubbornness forcing herself to dig deeper into her husband's secret life. If you just want to experience The Night House on a melodramatic level, there's plenty of soap operatics to chew on. The ending especially teeters on being extremely hokey. Still, after looking at a few film analyses of The Night House and hearing what director David Bruckner himself has said about the film, I found myself appreciating it a whole lot more. If you squint at The Night House, you'll see that basically it's a more emotional and mainstream retelling of Hellraiser. I can't claim to be the first to notice this, but once I was made aware of the similarities, I couldn't help but see the entire film in a new light. As with Hellraiser, we have a character that unlocks a door into another type of world, a world that is darker, twisted, and more perverse than the one his loved ones know of. Once that person is seduced by these darker forces, he's pulled into this world, leaving his loved ones to investigate and pulled into that void with him. Sure, there are no Cenobites, there's no box, but there is an intricately constructed house that serves as a portal into a much darker realm and a darker side, kept secret from our protagonist, who sees their lost loved one as one person when actually he is something completely foreign, twisted, and evil. I understand that's a vague comparison, especially if you haven't seen The Night House yet, but if and when you do see the film, I dare you not to think of how similar in story structure and theme it is with Barker's classic film Hellraiser. The Night House is full of strong mood, permeable atmosphere, solid performances, and nerve-shredding tension. Rebecca Hall carries the entire film on her back with her performance as someone pushed to the very edge of sanity while attempting to understand that which can't be understood. While Bruckner isn't above tossing in a jump scare or three, he fills the entire film with a dark and foreboding fog of morose tension and heavy emotion, delivering a horror film that is a cut above what is usually put out in major releases. This is hopeful, as I feel Bruckner has what it takes to blend popular horror tropes with depthy, emotional, and philosophical terrors. While one might view The Night House as a horror drama, emphasis on the drama, there are underlying tones that will definitely haunt you long after. It did for me, and because of it, my appreciation for this subtle yet powerful horror film grows the more I think about it, and the longer I'm away from it. That'll be it for today. Please chime in down below in the comments and let me know how on the nose or mind-numbingly wrong I am, or you can counter with your own review. So guys, you know how YouTube works. I'd love to be able to dedicate more time to this channel. I'm not monetized yet, so if you want to help me out, remember to hit all the pertinent bells and whistles down below. Want some spooky comics to read? I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look out for. Both Gravetrancers and Pirouette, collecting never-before-published issues, can be found in only the finest of comic book shops. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on my website, mlmillerwrites.com. If you really want to show your support, I also have a Patreon page at mlmiller. Look for the link to my Patreon page down below. Thank you so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your reality. You're doomed. Oh, you're doomed. You're doomed. You're doomed. Live the life that you are meant to be. Live inside that